5 souls in, 4 out. Tessa gone. Tessa can't be.
The 5th body. I think I just invited my mother to her own death.
The Way Home just answered one of its most enduring mysteries, and the answer is not what anyone predicted. Because for 4 seasons, going all the way back to the very first episode of this show, we have been assuming the clock in the wall was Tessa's. That the woman who jumped through the pond with Griffin Landry in 1883 was the one who left the inscription. The one who wrote, "Find me there." And in this episode, sitting in a 1925 conversation between Elliot and the mother he has been searching for across 4 seasons, the show looked us all directly in the eye and said no. Tessa has no idea what that clock is. And I honestly sat with that for a very long time before I was ready to say anything else about it. Let's talk about everything that happened in Tainted Love. The month Kat spent unable to jump, what Tessa finally told Elliot, and what she refused to tell him. What the clock in the wall actually means, now that Tessa has been eliminated as the person who placed it. Cliff's trap, Fern stepping in front of a gun, and that cipher, because the cipher is the most frightening thing this episode produced. And Elliot standing at the end of it realizing he may have just invited his mother to her own death is where this show left us with only 2 episodes remaining. First, the time that passed, because the episode does not open in the aftermath of the pond jump. It opens a month later. Kat had been trying to go back to 1925 for a month and had been unsuccessful every time. But Del and Alice were not worried. Del trusted that Elliot had things to work out. Alice knew Kat would successfully jump because she had seen it on film. And I want to stop on that detail. Alice had seen it on film. Not theorized it, not hoped for it, seen it. Which means at some point in 1925 there is footage of Kat arriving. And Alice found that footage. And the fact that she knew and did not tell Kat immediately is Alice doing what she has been doing all season. Protecting the people she loves from information they are not ready to carry yet. The date on the paper that Elliot found made the difference. The specific date Elliot found in the archives, the detail that made him go strange and quiet back in episode 5, is the reason the family was calm about his extended stay. Because whatever that date says is a date they already know. And it is coming whether Elliot is in the present or not. Now, Tessa. And the answers that came, and the ones that did not. In 1925, when Tessa got back from her travels, she was shocked and thankful that Elliot had been so helpful in her absence. But she owed Elliot answers and decided to give him some. And by some I mean very few, but it was a start. Tessa admitted to her son that Vic was very good to her, and that although she said we jump for love when she hopped into the pond with Griffin, nothing about it was straightforward. They landed in 1882, and until she got sick, everything was going very well. And then the piece of this story that has been a mystery since season 2. When she got ill, Griffin jumped to the present to get medicine, but he never returned. As we know, the pond takes you where you go. Whether Griffin actually jumped or just left her behind, we will probably never know. Which means Tessa has been in the 1920s, building her bootlegging empire, becoming the big fish, establishing her entire criminal identity, partly because the man she jumped with vanished on a medicine run and never came back. And she never knew if he chose to leave or if the pond simply took him somewhere else. I honestly think that uncertainty is the thing that hardened Tessa. Not ambition, not greed, the not knowing. She cut the conversation short when Elliot asked about the letter they received about her being ill and near death. The one that contained her engagement ring. She only needed to give one more short sentence of explanation, but suddenly was exhausted before the big day she had coming up. And the show lets that frustration land on the audience fully, because Elliot waited 4 seasons and 1 month and several episodes in 1925 for that conversation, and Tessa ran out of energy before the most important sentence. And I honestly do not know if that is cowardice or something more complicated, but it stings either way. The next day brings a moment that is both wonderful and deeply sad at the same time. Elliot connected with his mom for a few more quick exchanges. He told her about him and Kat. They bonded over TS. Elliot, sharing an appreciation for the line "I measured out my life in coffee spoons" as one of the most brilliant lines in any poem. Professor and his mother finding each other over a tea. S. Eliot poem in the 1920s. And the fact that Elliot's name is Elliot. And T.S. Elliot is the poet his mother loves. Is either the most beautiful coincidence this show has ever produced, or confirmation that nothing in the Landry family history is accidental. And then the clock. And I need to walk through this slowly because the implications are significant. Elliot discovered that the clock in the wall had nothing to do with Tessa. She had no idea what he was talking about. The inscription on that clock, time past and time future and in between, is the still point of now. Find me there was placed by someone who was not Tessa. 4 seasons of this show, assuming that clock was connected to the woman who jumped with Griffin. And the woman who jumped with Griffin has never heard of it. So who placed it? The reviewer from TV Fanatic put forward the theory that has the most evidence behind it right now. What if Elliot placed the clock in the wall for Kat? He is in 1925. He knows exactly what the pond at the Landry farm will mean to a future generation of his family. He loves words, T.S. Eliot, literature, language, in a way that makes that specific inscription make complete sense as something he would choose. And if he placed it before returning to the present, left it in that farmhouse wall for Kat to eventually find, then the clock is not a message from a lost traveler to no one. It is a message from Elliot to the woman he loves before she has any reason to think she needs it. I honestly think this is the most romantic possible answer. And I think the show planted it in this episode deliberately. Now, Kat arrives in 1925. And what happens immediately after it, Kat arrived dramatically running into Elliot's arms. He explained why he stayed behind, and the conversation has genuine emotion in it. Elliot talking about wanting more time with Tessa, about the formative moments he missed, about choosing to stay in a decade that was not his own for a mother who keeps giving him partial answers. I buy the emotion Elliot has about his mother. Every time he talks about Tessa, there is something real underneath it, something that has been waiting for 4 seasons to have a place to go. Kat called out Tessa for pretending to care so much about Elliot now when it benefits her. As a mother, Kat knows she would never leave Alice behind. Tessa had the gall to tell Kat that the love between a mother and her child is quite complex. And Kat, who has crossed decades to protect Alice, who has carried the weight of that mother-daughter bond through multiple timelines, is exactly the right person to call Tessa on this. Because Tessa saying the love between a mother and child is complex is technically true and completely evasive. It is the answer of someone who has never allowed herself to be accountable for the specific way she expressed that love. Or did not, but saying Alice struck Tessa. She did not expect such a reaction because of the Alice books. What does she know about the name, and why did it hit her like a ton of bricks? Alice. A name that connects to the Alice in Wonderland books. A book inscribed from Auntie Coop that appeared earlier in this season. A name that belongs to a girl Tessa has apparently encountered before in some form, and the way her face changed when she heard it is one of the most significant moments in the episode. Because Tessa is not a woman who reacts to things accidentally. Now, the film. And what it means that Kat's portion had been removed. The film popping up in Monica's box of Port Haven treasures was not a problem. The part Kat was in had been spliced out. That led them to believe Evelyn knew Alice was a time traveler. Someone removed Kat from that footage, deliberately, carefully, with enough knowledge about what they were seeing to understand why it needed to be hidden. And the theory that carries the most weight right now is that it was not young Evelyn who did this. It was the older Evelyn, the bitter, complicated woman we glimpsed briefly in season 1, who spent enough decades with her memories to eventually put the pieces together and decide that some things should stay buried. Alice in 1980 gives us something painful in this episode. When Alice went back to 1980, Evelyn was already struggling. The smile was gone from her pretty face. She left her friends in a huff that read more like sadness and regret than anger. It was Evie's birthday, and Evie was alone and wanted to celebrate with her friend. But Alice was on a hunting mission and just poking around for answers. Finally, Evie admitted that Del's pregnancy is what is causing her pain. Colton drifts further away from Evie as his love for Del and their unborn child grows, and Evie is all alone in a big house. And I want to say something about Evelyn's storyline specifically. The girl we fell in love with in 1979, the warm, enthusiastic, curious person Alice connected with so completely, is 1 year later sitting alone on her birthday watching the man she loves drift toward a family that is not hers. And Alice is there with questions instead of company. And the discomfort of that scene is entirely intentional. Alice has been using 1979 and 1980 as a research library, and Evelyn has been treating every one of Alice's visits as the highlight of a life that keeps getting smaller. That imbalance has been building for several episodes, and this one finally makes it impossible to ignore. Now, the present. And the family dinner that Sam attends with the specific quiet confidence of a man who has known for a long time that he belongs in this room. The family dinner was incredibly awkward. The look on Sam's face never faltered. He just enjoys being part of the family, and I honestly love this detail more than I can explain. Sam sitting at that dinner, knowing what he knows, carrying what Casey told him about the future, watching this family navigate all the things they have not said to each other yet, and just being genuinely happy to be there. No agenda, no anxiety, just present. When Abby revealed she was leaving Port Haven for Toronto, it threw Jacob for a loop. He takes commitment seriously, and with a little time, he offered to make long-distance work. The city girl is beginning to fall for more than Jacob. Even small towns are beginning to grow on her. She's ready to tell her dad she's dating a Landry. Romeo and Juliet. A Landry and a Goodwin. And Abby going home to tell her father is the moment the play moves from stolen glances in a park to a declaration that has consequences. Sam finally told Del the truth about what he knew. And he did it because he wanted her to jump and tell Colton that their family would be happy in the future. Which creates a paradox nobody has fully addressed yet. Del jumping into 1979 or 1980 to tell a young Colton that his family will be happy, knowing that he dies before seeing that happiness, is either the most comforting or the most cruel thing someone can do for a person they love. And I honestly cannot decide which one it is. Now, 1925. And Cliff, and the trap that nobody saw being set until it was already closing. Kat and Fern realized that the big award Cliff was leaving to accept was not true. He was using it as an excuse to make others think he was out of town while actually taking the pressure off the job and preparing to out Tessa as the big fish and catch them all in the middle. Cliff has been several steps ahead of everyone in 1925 for longer than this episode lets on. And the reveal that his absence was a calculated move, not a convenient departure, reframes every scene he has been in this season, including the ones where he seemed to be the most straightforwardly sympathetic character in the 1920s timeline. One of Augie's goons was an informant, and the jig was up. Cliff had Tessa, Kat, and Elliot at the end of his barrel when Fern rushed up and stood in front of them. She changed things. Cliff told them to run, giving them a chance to free themselves. Fern stepping in front of a gun for 3 people, one of whom is her bootlegger boss, and one of whom is the stranger who keeps appearing through a pond, is everything this character has been building toward all season. She is not a villain. She is not even a morally gray figure in the end. She is a woman who chose love over survival instinct in the most literal possible way. And it worked. And I honestly think that moment is one of the most important things this final season has given us about what Port Haven has always been about. The crossing heals people. The Landry farm holds people. And Fern Landry is the 1920s version of every woman in this family who has ever chosen to stand in front of something terrible so that the people behind her had a chance to run. As Fern was proclaiming her innocence to Cliff, she handed him the page torn from the Alice books, claiming it was evidence that would explain everything. Fern said, "I'm just the messenger." Fern had been sending messages through her columns that could be deciphered using the page. Tessa used Fern's columns to communicate with her bootlegging ring. And then the cipher. And this is where the episode becomes the most important hour this show has ever produced. The page with a key was the literal key, a cipher that revealed the words of the song about the explosion in the catacombs. 5 souls in, 4 out. Tessa gone, NYE job botched. Elliot realized he might have just invited his mother to his own death. 5 in, 4 out. Tessa gone. And Elliot, who promised his mother he would return on New Year's Eve, who told her he would be there for the Lingermore party, even if he gets arrested as history shows. Just realized that the New Year's Eve party he agreed to attend is the one that ends with an explosion. 5 people go in, 4 people come out, and Tessa is listed separately from both numbers. Because Tessa is the one who is neither in nor out, she is gone. Which means Tessa disappears in that explosion in a way that is different from dying and different from surviving. And Elliot, standing with that knowledge, knowing you cannot change the past, no matter how many times this family has tried, is looking at the proof that he has been walking toward the moment that takes his mother for the second time. And he made the appointment himself. Episode 9, Auld Lang Syne, airs this Sunday at 9 p.m. on Hallmark Channel. Next week is dedicated to New Year's Eve 1925. New Year's Eve in 1925 brings into focus the Landry and Augustine family's destiny, and Elliot and Kat witness it. In another time, Alice does the same. And the finale, titled Ahead by a Century, is confirmed to be longer than a standard episode. 2 episodes left, 2 Sundays, and a cipher that just told us how it ends. Drop a comment and tell me, if Elliot placed the clock in the wall, who did he place it there for? And do you think he is going to try to change what the cipher says, even knowing the past cannot be changed. Because after everything this episode revealed, I honestly think Elliot is going to try anyway. And I think that choice is going to cost him more than he is ready for.